All right, Josh Greco here of Pro Advisor Coach. Of course, I have Dr. Bob with me, and we have a guest today, Tim Nihoul. Did I say that right, Tim?
Long I.
Nihoul. Nihoul. Got it. So we're talking about potential today, and as usual, being able to tap into more. Here's a question. Maybe we can start off with this question, Dr. Bob. Does the fact that potential exists mean that there's no cap, no ceiling? Like, is there a ceiling to potential?
I think it goes in stages, and as you get older, I think you have the capability. Well, you still have it when you're younger. And Tim, you tell me what you think. Well, you still have it with your younger. I think as you get older, it becomes more achievable, okay? And it expands, of course, because you have the experience and you have the knowledge. That doesn't go for everybody, but for those people who are dedicated to achieving higher levels, I don't think it's possible today to reach the human potential at its highest, but I think we could plan for it. I think we can see it and set parameters for it. And it's just like history. I mean, if you go back, maybe 100 years, not even, I go back to the 90s. I mean, you can't go back to the 90s, but Tim and I can. There was no cell phones. There wasn't a fax. There wasn't truly an internet. Look how far in 20 years, 25 years, the amount of potential, technological potential that we've achieved in that period. Can you imagine with what's going on with space now and magnetism? Who the hell knows in another 20 years where we could be? So I mean, that's my opinion. Tim, I'd like to hear what you think about that.
I think as we age, it comes to a point where we quit worrying about peer pressure, what somebody else thinks, and we look at something and say, how can I make this happen? Not do I want to do it, but how, it's a great idea. How can I do that? What do I have to do to make it happen? A lot of times I'll say, what's, as long as it's not illegal, immoral or fattening, what can we do to bring about what it is we dream about? And and as you said, Dr. Bob, about things change, and it's changing rapidly. I'm a Vietnam vet. I've been around a couple days, seen a lot of things. I've done very well in a number of businesses, which led to coaching, which has led to the next thing. But I was just talking 3 months ago, I guess, to my cardiologist because I've had a problem, and he said, well, we can't help you because we think you've got a problem with small vessels. We can't do anything with small vessels. Drugs don't work on them. And that was probably in April, maybe March. And then I talked to him again in July when I told him I was going to be traveling. And he said, I'll always be your doctor. Come back. If you're in the area, drop in, see me. He said, there's a new frontier to medicine. It's called microcirculation. And he said, that works on the small vessels. And it's a whole new thing. We've got so much to learn about it. And I tried to tell him about that 2 years ago, because that's the thing that's helped me the most. But a device out of Liechtenstein, and it has been tremendous. So I'm glad medicine is finally looking that way, but it's changes and looking and asking questions as to how does this work? What if we could make a difference in that, what would it look like? And then start exploring it. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. and I hate to sound like, an old timer who's been there and done that, because one of the things when I was much younger, I was very much open to different things. I never took something for granted, and I never, ever said, I know the answer to that. I always would say that I think I have a good perspective on that issue or what have you. And that helped me. And first off, it gained respect from the people around me because I wasn't a know-it-all, but I had very good insight. I had good wisdom, so to speak. And as I grew older and I experienced it more and more, things became second nature as to how to advance yourself, how to make yourself more worthwhile to those around you and to the world, in fact. And I think that's missing today. I think the whole notion of expertise, Tim, is a matter. I think that it holds us back in a lot of ways because, like you said, it's very commonplace. 2 years ago, you had some insight into this process. Your doctor didn't, or he wasn't ready to commit to it, right?
Correct.
And then he found out that what you were looking at was beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I know I can tell I've got a number of doctors because I have a number of issues. I can tell which ones are right on target with what's going on, just by the way that they handle me, and the things and processes and systems that they follow and put in place.
I like what you said, Dr. Bob, in the beginning about just where we are. Like I picture, I like to use imagery, right? So we're talking about expansion of potential, and maybe we have a limit where we are now, but the more we go, or the older that we get, I think is the term that you both use, is that it expands and it keeps going. And it's the old adage of, if you've ever heard of every solution causes 10 more problems. If we reframe, and we're coaches, right, Tim? So we say a problem is just an opportunity. So every solution causes 10 more opportunities. Maybe that's what it is. It's just this exponential branch or a tree that as soon as there's a breakthrough somewhere, there's an opportunity to have a breakthrough of a breakthrough. And there's always more. There's always more. As we sit here today, like you said, Dr. Bob, with the internet, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, we couldn't have predicted sitting here contemplating the things we're contemplating today without having to go through that process. But now that we sit here, oh my gosh, as much as we've accomplished in 30 years, what are we capable of now? And it's almost expansive, the opportunity or the potential that's out there. So it's just interesting to think about it that way.
Yeah, and just to give you another example of that, our nonprofit institute has been funding a project concerning portals, interspace, and one of the things that we're discovering is that we're able to locate where these things exist. But more importantly, we're starting to understand that these portals each have a different intent. They have a different character. For instance, there's this one, let me get the pronunciation right, I got it right here. Mauritius. It's an island off of Madagascar. And this is it's a portal, a pretty active one. That means that it stays open most of the time. But it's a healing place. People go there, and there are registered accounts of people getting healed for various types of things. Now, project that into the future. You use your imagination, right? Can you imagine having something that, a directory, so to speak, that you could go to and you find a portal that will make you better, uh, uh, make you smarter, okay, give you more wisdom. You know, who knows? Who knows what's possible and impossible? And that might well happen within, 10 years. God Almighty, we're doing interspace travel. We may not be here. We may be communicating from Mars or someplace. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think we can sit here today. It's kind of like what we were talking about. To the concept of the internet 30 years ago, like what the heck are you talking about? And now we're doing that today. So I think the wormhole, if you will, is our imagination. Like what can we dream up? Because we can accomplish whatever is there. It's almost fun to just play in that space because you can get so creative. It's almost like you can't get enough creative. Tim, do you see it that way?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's anything that happens is a result of a thought.
Yeah, I
It's
love
thought-
that. I
it's
love
first
that.
thought about, and then people, as you said, you have a dream, you have a thought, and then you start putting action to that and saying, what are the possibilities? And you may fail many times, but there's nothing wrong with failure. That's where we learn. And by doing that, we can take I don't think the right word is genesis, but we can take that, what we learned from that thing and then reapply it.
It
And see
evolved.
what's the value. Yeah, to evolve from it.
Yeah. We last week, Tim, we were talking about feedback and how important feedback is in systems. That it's what keeps the supply line of data and growth available to whatever individual or company or a country, whoever is engaged in the feedback. And unfortunately, how many people don't respect or fear feedback because it's going to make them look bad, or they're going to look stupid, or they're going to look, and oops, there goes the ego. The ego pops in there and just acts as that restrictor that it does so well, And I have, matter of fact, to that end, I have a friend of mine who if you're a golfer or sportsman, you may know. His name is, let's see if I can get that up there. His name is Jimmy Roberts, and he's an NBC announcer. And he did this article. And he says, the article is, "My name is Jimmy, and I have the yips," which in golf means, you got the shakes, right? Then he says, the first step to solving a problem is admitting that you have one, which is very common knowledge. But how many people follow that? How many people are willing to say, yeah, I have a problem? I mean, they don't even want to say it to themselves, much less to the world around them. How the hell are you going to get better if you don't admit that there's something wrong, that there's a lacking in your life? Don't you think so, Tim?
That's true. I mean, same thing with, you saw with Alcoholics Anonymous. They have to admit they've got a problem before they can face it. So, and it could be the same thing in any small business or any business, any action. Well, procrastination. What's causing that? And how's that working for you? And you have to admit, hey, I'm a procrastinator. And I can be really good at that because I can get wrapped up in things and then realize, oh, hell, what happened here? I got to get rid of that. I've got to take things off my phone or do something. And when I schedule my day is when I get things done. And when I don't plan ahead, it's weird. I just got an email from my brother because I sent him our itinerary for the next almost 6 months. And he said, wow, I can't believe you've got everything planned out. And I said, yeah, we found out we have to, because even though we want to spend, I'm going to spend 3 months in Tucson here. We'll get there the 16th of November. And I've got a lot of things to do when I'm down there. And then I'm going to go to Austin, Texas for 2 months. And then after that, we've got our plans going somewhere, but that somewhere hasn't been totally worked out. But you have to do it, because you may not be able to find a place if you're going to an RV park. I was talking to a fraternity brother who owns an RV park up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And he said, you better be planning way ahead. He said, we are totally booked up
Wow.
through 2023.
Wow.
So
Wow.
now he's got a very nice place. So, but yeah, that's the thing you've got to look at. So, unless you want to be camping on the side of the road, which is not high on my list of things to do, you got to plan ahead for it. So
Now, Timmy, I forgot. Are you an engineer, or are you a systems person?
nope. I've got a degree in pre-law political science,
Oh.
and then went in the Army when I graduated from Washington State University in June of '69, my lottery number was 2. And when my twin brother got orders out of Vietnam, I got orders into Vietnam. So I gave up the idea of law school after that. I thought I was going to be an Army officer forever. And I'm too, I don't like sitting around. And I didn't like when there's not a war going on. I know that's not good things, but when there's not a war going on, you can only train so much. And so I just got tired. I commanded 3 different line units and then resigned my commission. And I'd been awarded a regular Army commission out of Vietnam. So, I just like keep moving. One thing I've had to learn about this, and when I'm pulling this fifth wheel, I've got a $80,000 truck pulling a $140,000 fifth wheel.
Mhm.
And, you got a lot of money going down the road. And if you don't slow down, if you're not cognizant, if you take shortcuts, you're going to damage something. And I've done that, and I've learned. And
Yeah.
so that one of the things I was doing this morning was out fixing a problem that I didn't understand what it was. It was from the manufacturer, but I went online, found some people. They said, hey, try this. I solved the problem. So, but you can't wait. You've got to do things, but you also got to look at, are you going off here half cocked and trying to do something when you need to slow down, reevaluate it, look at the systems. I run a checklist. One of the things I found is I've got a checklist on my phone for every aspect of my setting up the RV, for hitching up the RV, for getting to someplace and getting camp set up, going someplace, getting ready to move, getting that broken down. So you take the step by step to get that done. And since I've done that, I've solved a lot of my problems, but I had to learn some of it by picking somebody else's brain that I just said, hey, that person on YouTube or whatever became a mentor. I look at their stuff all the time. And by doing some things and going, oh, that was not very smart, Tim. And, you just have to learn. But the checklist, that's the systems I'm talking about, having that system and going through all those points. And I showed it to a friend of mine, and he said, you've got basically almost 5 pages of things you're checking off. And in fact, the guy's a Navy pilot. He was in Vietnam flying off carriers when I was in South Vietnam. And he said, you've got more of a checklist than I had when I was getting he's flying a helicopter than what we did for flying our helicopters.
Yeah.
Every little detail makes a difference.
It's too bad Alec Baldwin didn't have something like that in place.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but that is I've handled firearms all my life, but boy, we've got a set protocol we go through anytime I pick up a firearm.
Right. Yes.
So you can't cheat it.
You know, if the books that I've written, one of the discoveries, major discoveries that we have made with the Institute is what we call discovery of this potential molecule, and it is based on the biological process of cellular development. A geneticist friend of mine actually discovered this many years ago and taught it to me and asked me to make it into a practical language, because it has 3 parts to it, and those 3 parts break down into 13 principles, okay? And the 3 parts, you know, think about this, the 3 parts are planning, organizing, and functioning. And if you think about it, anything and everything you can imagine falls into one of those 3 things. Whatever you're doing, you're either in a planning stage, an organizing stage, or a functioning stage. And of course, there's a positive and a negative to each of those. But we've done neurological tests, 3 different types of neurological tests, and they came out with a 97% valid establishment of those principles. So planning is so critical. I mean, I totally agree with you, and sometimes, you know, it could be a royal pain in the ass to sit there and have to go through everything that think about everything that you need to do, and then after you do that, to try and organize it to make sure that you're following a proper path and you're not leaving things out, you know, such as feedback. And I had a young boy recently who, I mean, the kid was amazing. He just caught on to this stuff so easy. But you know what? When it came to the feedback, and Josh, you would really love this. He walked. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear that, you know, it may end up bad, or it may not work, or he may not. His biggest fear was he may not like it. Well, how the hell do you know if you don't do it and you go through it? How the hell do you know if you're going to like it or not, and have it prevent you from taking steps? So I totally get what you're saying, Tim. You know, I'm sure that any clients that you may have certainly are getting a good lesson in that respect.
What speaks to me about that, Dr. Bob, is I think so often we want certainty. Like, are we going to get the results? Like we want to know ahead of time, and that's sometimes living in the unknown is where that creative space comes from. And I'd like to get Tim's thoughts on this, because it's like a yin and a yang here. There's like 2 opposing energies of like creativity and potential implies that like it's almost limitless, right? There's nothing to really put your finger on. But to Tim's point that he's made a couple times, and this is what all the greats have spoken about, Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale and all those types that speak about this, is that you get what you focus on. So it's almost like picking one of those things guarantees that you'll get it, whether that's a goal or whatever you want to achieve. You have to pick something, but as soon as you do that, you almost leave the space. You sacrifice everything else that is possible or that there is potential for, but that's how you get it. So Tim, I'm wondering how you make sense of that, because I know that you understand both of those principles, but it's like is it a balance? Like how do you approach that?
What do you have control over? Do you have control over your results? You can influence them, but you can't guarantee your results. So what I tell people, actions, feelings are going to control your emotions. Emotions are going to control your actions. Actions are going to determine your results. So what controls those thoughts? that is the small voice, our self-talk, what's going on. And I learned that from, first time I heard it was back in 1984 when I hired my first coach. And the coach said, what's the most important thing you should be doing right now? Good question. I said, maybe it should be taking a nap.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, hey, good thing. And he also made another point, going back to what you're talking about. He said, planning does not take time, it saves time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to think about that because planning the night before or the week before or whatever it was, I was winging it. I was doing too much. I was getting, fairly good results, but I was working my tail off to do it.
Yep.
And he said, you can save time if you plan it ahead of time, work on those actions, or those most important, vital things that are going to get the work done. And I learned that, some of the things I needed to do in the business I had was to hire people to do the things that I was not good at. Don't focus on my weaknesses, focus on my strengths, and let somebody else do the weaknesses. And so that's the thing that I had to learn to do, to say and get it through my thick head that let's do this. So that's how that made a huge difference. And then when I started coaching, after I had a major event, and the cardiologist told me if I wanted to get older, I needed to change my life, I sold the business I had. And that's when my attorney recommended I start coaching businesses because I'd been fairly successful. And that's where I started. And that's one of the things I would start working with with business owners. There's a lot of things that they're trying to do everything and they can't. Trying to think of the name of the guy who wrote a book, The E-Myth Revisit, Michael Gerber. You're either a technician, you're a manager, or you're a marketer. And you're one of those three. You can't be all of them, or most people are not going to be. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to leave. I just saw somebody show up that's going to here to buy a car. So I'm going to have to sign off. But good chatting with you.
Thanks for
Good talking,
joining
Tim.
us.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
Bye.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, Josh. All right, that was fun.
Yeah, well, let's keep going because I think this could be a unique little scenario here where we had a little different flavor. It's good to bring a third set of eyes and ears and mouth in here. And yeah, what are you taking away so far from our conversation?
Well, you brought up something that's exactly what's going on in my life when you talk about, planning and the results. My doctors and I are trying to set a plan for curing what's ailing me, but we don't know what's ailing me. So we're not. We're at the pre-planning stage. The discovery, which is part of planning, right? What you're focusing on and what you believe about it, So I've had suggestions from family members that said, well, you should be taking this and you should be taking that. And I didn't think that was correct. And I asked my hematologist, I said, what do you think? He said, Robert, he said, we got to find out what it is. You start taking stuff, suppose it hurts you. Or suppose it, suppose it doesn't do anything. What if the label says, within 2 weeks, you will be cured, or 2 weeks, or the internet ad or something, and it doesn't happen. It's only going to let you down. You're only going to enter a state of depression and lose faith in the process. So, these are concepts, Josh, that are so fundamental to every single thing that we do. And I keep telling people, my kids and my wife, thinking is not linear. We do it linear, we see it as linear, it's circular. It's circular. and you got that focus in the middle, that awareness, and then you have the other 12 principles around it, and they're firing into that focus all at the same time in different ways. And you can't leave any of them out. And they're always, every single moment of our lives, that's what's happening. So we're getting circle, 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 circle. And it just keeps going on. It keeps going on, you know, infinitely.
Yeah, it's so true. We're gonna do a first here. I'm gonna actually share my screen. I want to show you something because what you just said dawned on me. I'll have to, I gotta wait till I find this document, but it came to me in, I don't know, a meditation or something about a year ago, and I felt inclined to draw it out. And I wrote a visual depiction, and it's exactly what you just mentioned here. So it's kind of crazy that that's happening. Oh, here it is. I found it. So what I titled this is Planning Anticipates Linear Outcomes is what it's called. And I'm going to show you, whoever's watching as I share my screen here. So you have the original idea, which you said there's a central point, right? And then there's a place where you want to go. And look at that arrow, goes right to it. That's, you think all I got to do is, think this is what I want, boom, it's linear. And these little circles in my mind, this is what I interpret, was the resistance, right? So the further out that you go, the less resistance there is. So as you make your way out, you're bumping into all these things and you have to change paths. And yes, and this is the image that I got, was a spiral. And as you go out from that original idea, you find your way, you make your way around, and it just happens to be going around and around and around. And the further you get out and the closer you get to that achievement spot, there's that less resistance. There's less out there to keep you from it because you have that additional knowledge and awareness of going through this whole process. Does this speak to you here?
You just depicted the potential molecule.
Really?
Yeah. And I have a formal. I'll send it to you.
Please.
I don't have, but what it is a wheel with in the center. There's a circle, which is your focus, your awareness. And then around the outside, you have the different principles, the 12 different principles, right? Now, depending on how great your awareness is, relates to how big that molecule gets. Okay? And the more balanced you are with the other 12, the more natural the term is I'm looking for is symmetrical. The more symmetrical that molecule gets. So you have it, and your let's say your concepts are not like that, and your expression is not like that. It's kind of balanced, and you have a smooth way of functioning. But that's what you're doing. And let me add this. The other thing that you said, and you talk about a spiral. There are 3 scientific methods to the potential molecule. The first is the pulse. The rock hits the water. Okay? From the pulse, you get the wave. Okay? When it reaches its maximum, it then starts to swirl. Becomes the spiral. Becomes reality. So here's a very important lesson that I learned that I don't like. The bigger your focus and the greater your desire, your concept is, the longer it's going to take to get there.
Huh.
Okay. So that, and I tell that to some younger fellows who are trying to make, trying to make millions. Okay. got to be patient. All right, you're on the right path. You got a good plan. You're well organized. If it doesn't happen, it's because you haven't filled in the gaps yet. You haven't gotten to the maximum of your attention. And my wife, when I did that description to at a lecture a couple of years ago, my wife says, that's what you're doing. What you're doing is, she says, you have a focus and you get there, and then you have another focus that's that big, and then you have another focus when you get there, you got that big, and you're wondering why you're not getting to the point where you want to have understanding. You want people, because you keep outgrowing the environment. Okay, so the good points and the bad points are all there, and the more I'm recognizing this, the better I feel about myself and my abilities. That's critical. So I have to cut back a little bit or to learn a super way of transmitting that type of information that people get it. But it's not, as you know, Josh, it's not easy to do. People don't grasp concepts very well, and
It's like a 1D image that comes to you from potentially a 5D world that you have to translate into a 3D existence.
yeah. And something you said last week that I just wanted to bring up for a moment. Remember we were talking about where spiritual beings living in a body?
Yeah.
The opposite is even more valid.
Physical beings living in a spiritual body. Tell me more about that.
That's the part that we don't see. The second mind.
Yeah.
Potential molecule mind that we don't realize that we're part of, and how it functions and whatnot. We're not functioning in that. It could be very challenging and boring to just follow procedures. And first off, you got to have faith. You got to believe that it's going to work, just like you said before.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it's because of either your planning or your organizing or your functioning skills that are off. So I thought that was a neat concept, though. People, it's something that you could share with people that might help in some instances anyway. But that was neat, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've never heard it flipped around like that, and it makes a lot of sense. You think of auras, for example. They're not on the inside of the body; they're on the outside. And I think our limitations come from our physical self. So it makes sense that we only exist in our physical space here, but the spiritual part is here. So it makes sense. Physical body inside a spiritual body.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was good. I enjoyed this session, Josh. I'm looking forward to next week. Next week is health-wise, it's going to be quite an issue for me, but hopefully we'll discover something that is going to be of significant benefit. But we'll see. God willing, we'll see you next Wednesday. Try and get another guest or Tim back or something. But we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely, I look forward to it, and take this for whatever it is. I just finished that Edward Casey book, The Sleeping Prophet, and he might tell you to listen to your body. Like, what is your body trying to tell you? Of course, there's all these medical things to look into and discoveries to be made, but I'm a firm believer in this. Your body's trying to tell you something that either you're not paying attention to, or you got to pay attention more to. And if you ask the question, it always knows. So I'm just curious what answer you might come up with. So just maybe explore that a little bit.
You're absolutely right, and that's the basis of our 7 assessments and our potential molecule. The molecule knows.
Mm-hmm.
Just organize it, and listen to it. You're absolutely right. Right on target, once again. You must be a shooter of some sort. Target. Hey, listen, have a great week. It was a pleasure as usual.
Always good talking to you, Dr. Bob. We'll see you next week.
Talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.